Okay, we are live. Hello, welcome to Nourish, the Risktakers. I am so excited for today's episode. And of course, just a reminder, if you're watching this live, please do share your comments. We will look at them and see them in real time. If you're watching this on the replay on social media, please do just let us know by hitting replay below. And of course, we take this afterwards and create an audio so you can always listen to it on anywhere where you listen to podcasts and of course on YouTube. Now, I am so excited about this week's Nourish the Risk Takers podcast because Karina and I have been in a relationship, and I know that sounds really, everyone's going, "Ooh, a relationship." We've been in an
Didn't know.
interesting, I would say, collaboration, co-creation space over the last 2 or 3 months, especially, and it's been a really, I would say, an intimate connection that we've
Mhm,
had
mhm.
in that you brought an idea to me and I was like, yeah, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But for right now, Karina, welcome to Nourish the Risk Takers. Do you want to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. Hi. Thanks for having me on, Marisa. I'm really excited to be here. My name's Karina BlackHeart. I am the founder of KBH Enterprises, which is just everything that I do under that umbrella. But right now, my big baby that I'm working on and trying to grow and develop and water and nourish is thecroneherself.com, where I discuss big crone energy, teach women who are my age and way younger than me how to access this energy for the betterment of our lives so that our whole lives get bigger, that we take better responsibility for ourselves, our power, and the collective. So I'm a whole life priestess, whole life evolutionary priestess, really interested in working with women to take our power and destroy, burn, demolish the good girl book of rules that don't make any sense.
Yeah, so let's dive in there because of course this podcast is about nourishing the risk takers, and I definitely have seen when somebody says, well, what's a risk taker, and I said, originally I saw that business owners were expected to take on a lot of risk, a lot of responsibility, just because they had the
Mhm.
audacity to come up with an idea. And
Right.
I could see a lot of people going, well, if you didn't know that that was going to happen, you shouldn't have become a business owner. Meanwhile, this was always said by people who don't have the guts or gumption to actually become a business owner themselves. And
That'll
so,
never work. That'll never work.
yeah,
That'll
that's
go
right.
get a
And it's like, have
job.
you tried it? No.
Yeah.
Then why are you even talking to me right now? Like, it's just
Right.
like one of those things. And so I started thinking about Nourish the Risk Takers, about how we can reach out to people who are traditionally expected to do the labor, to do the work. And if they have any kind of like, hey, can we do this easier? Can I get help? Can I get support? It was like, why can't you hack it or why can't you handle it? And I love that you work with women who, because let's just face it, a lot of labor is expected of women and femme folks to just do it and to not ask for help. And if you ask for help, there's we can do this as a gender examination, and I do hope that people do participate in this because of course men have their own set of expectations as well, but
Correct.
we can look at women and the folks who are women adjacent. We definitely are seeing that they're not allowed to ask for help. They're not allowed because it seems like, why can't you handle it? Why can't you do it all?
Or
Let's
you're
talk about that.
supposed to already know, right? You're just supposed to magically know. Um, I was just getting ready for my own podcast, and I've been soliciting questions from my audience, and one of the questions was like, I'm sandwiched between caring for aging, ailing parents and teenagers, and I'm in perimenopause. How do I do this gracefully? And I was like,
Great. What's grace?
what is, first of all, let's look up the word grace and
Yeah.
figure out what that means and what does that mean to you and who told you you had to be graceful
Yeah.
in every moment. And Nobody gave us the manual of how to do this.
Right.
And we don't have elders. We don't ask our elders, right? Or the elders aren't forthcoming, or they're still saying you should already know. You should just know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
we
I just
don't
looked up
know.
the definition of
Hmm?
grace. But I just looked up the definition of grace,
Thank you.
and it's like courteous goodwill. So I love this actually because we got to give ourselves some courteous goodwill in managing all of these roles that we're taking on.
Yes. Yeah. And that are thrust upon us, right? I mean, we know someday our parents are going to get old and they're going to need us. And we know
Absolutely.
someday we're going to have teenagers and they're going to need us differently from moment to moment to moment to moment.
Despite them saying that they don't need us, they
Yes,
do.
despite
Yes.
them saying, get away from me, just leave me alone, right?
Yeah.
Um,
And our bodies need us. And, our mind needs us. So, like, we're present in so many different positions.
right. What I said to this woman was, this is an obstacle course. And the only way that you learn to run an obstacle course is you learn to run it. You
Mm,
practice it and you practice it and you practice it and you practice it. And we have no practice for this
right.
obstacle
Right. We're
course.
just supposed to step into the role.
No matter whether it's in our life or raising children or facing menopause or getting older or taking care of our aging parents or running a business.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you get to know what the steps are and the obstacle and you can foresee obstacles is if you've
Mm-hmm.
run that course a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's where you come in, right? Because you've run the course so many times, right? Like you can foresee, oh, you need to do this next. You need to do this next. No, don't do that. Don't spend your time doing that, right? And it's
Yeah.
so wonderful to have a business mentor who is experienced,
Yeah. Well, I'm also like a
who wants
disaster.
to help matter.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a disaster prep person too. So like I started off in crisis communications. And so I'm the person who like literally thought of all of the worst case scenarios that could happen
Mhm.
in any situation. I worked in a variety of different industries. And so I bring that because I think I don't want to like bring anybody's vibe down, like the whole like good vibes only crap that we hear out there. But it's like being prepared, right? Being prepared because at any given time when we are working with people who are disabled or who have neurodivergence or any of the other plethora of marginalizations and oppressions that at any given time are placed upon our bodies, we have to plan to navigate everything. And when we're running a business and that's our only income source, we don't have the luxury to just put things on the shelf like, oh, I'll work my business later while I handle this flare up, while I handle, my aging parent needing care. I'll
Right.
just do it later. That doesn't work like that. My father passed away suddenly, and I remember thinking like, thank God I work a bit because I didn't have to worry about bereavement time. I
Right.
flew out the next day. I was able to help my stepmother, be there and be with the family. But I still worked. Like I remember one of my clients was like, what's the background happening? I'm like, I'm in a hotel room. I made the decision to get a hotel room instead of staying with my family because I knew I'd have to work. And,
Right.
she's like, oh, we could reschedule. I'm like, actually, I can't because it's not like I just get to just put everything the next week because then the next week I have all the other appointments, so sometimes I have to in the middle of a funeral planning go and help a client for an hour. I don't have the luxury of just shelving that.
Right. Right.
And there's people out there who will say you can schedule your business to allow. No, it's bull crap.
Right.
It's bull crap.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way. It
Yeah.
just
I,
doesn't.
I I love that, but you work from home, so you're available all the time.
Or if you had your systems and your automations or you just had an online course, you wouldn't have to show up. And it's like,
Mhm.
how do you think those things get sold? Doesn't matter if I'm working with a client or I'm doing a marketing plan, all of that is still there. It's just it's interesting the commentary we get, right?
Mhm.
So let's talk about the crone herself.
Okay.
What is at the core of the crone herself? Like, why did you start this idea? Because I was very excited when you brought it up.
I was struggling with my other businesses, right? Things weren't feeling exactly right, and that I wasn't being nourished in the ways that I need to be nourished. One of my businesses I've been teaching in that venue for about 20 years. And making a decision to leave that was hard. There was grief involved. Am I doing the right thing? What am I going to do next? And as I started to move away from that and build what I was doing next, everything just kept falling apart, right? The website was just, we're not even going to go there, but it was 3 months of horrible experiences trying to build a new website and trying to come up with content, and everything that I needed to do to build this business just felt like, and you remember me being in the rooms and being like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do it. Why do I have to do all this busy work? I just want to do what I'm here to do. And that's still true. I still want to do what I'm here to do. That wasn't the right venue for me. But I didn't know what was next. So I was really in this place of like, I'm building this thing. It's not making me happy. What am I doing? And I don't know. I stumbled on this website and it said something like, you've never been comfortable calling yourself a coach because you're not one, you're a priestess. And I had to sort of sit back and take a really deep breath, because that's true, right? I've been a priestess for 35 years. And I've called myself all kinds of things, right? To avoid the P word, right? So I would be acceptable, right? To a wider audience, right? So I've called myself a coach. I've been a mentor. I've been a empowerment person. I've been, a teacher, all of these titles. And I said, but priestess just sounds like somebody who's in their 20s, right? Or and we see all the images, right, of priestesses, and they're size 4 and they're wearing their prom gown in the woods and gallivanting. And I'm like, look at me. That's not what I look like. I've never looked like that. But I was having this other thing happen in my life where I'm postmenopausal now, right? Like my hormones, oh my God, my hormones are just the same every damn day. I am the same person this afternoon as I was this morning, and as I will be tomorrow and next week. And it's like a revelation, right? To not be week to week to week to week, day to day to day during perimenopause and menopause. Like, who am I? What is happening? Could I even trust myself to make a decision? And there's really been this thing, like my kids are mostly grown, right? They're 22 and 26. The 22-year-old still lives here and needs parenting from me at a level that I'm kind of uncomfortable with, right? I'm like, I don't really want to parent at that level anymore. But there's a sense of,
you're like, I got things to do.
I got a life to live now. Like, you're supposed to be gone, right?
Yeah, no offense.
Because they're neurodivergent, to an extreme, they're never probably going to be gone, right? We'll probably always live together. And then they can be writing to someone saying, how do I take care of my grouchy old mother, right?
When the torch passes, yes.
So all of these things were sort of converging, right? And this sense of really, I think when I met you and I started working in the Catalyst, and you would ask me questions, and a lot of times, if it was about my business, I would hesitate. But if it was about me and the kind of work I do, I was so solid, and I shocked myself at how solid I was. And so there was this, on the one hand, my business was like, what is happening? But I felt so solid. And so when this question came up about what kind of priestess are you, which is a question I give my students, all the time. What kind of witch are you? What kind of priestess are you? What kind of magical practitioner are you? And it was time for me to ask myself that question again. And the answer was, I'm a crone now. I'm 58 years old. And I said, what does that look like in relationship to what I want to be teaching, how I want to be leading, how I want to be nourishing women who are my age and older and my age and younger, right? This is a whole life spectrum event, this big crone energy. And I sat with my morning pages, which I write every morning, right? Handwritten, sit down, stream of consciousness. I'm a Capricorn, so a lot of times it's just a to-do list, right? But 26 pages poured out of me. And it was like it was this huge thing, right? And I said I had a business plan. Or I
Yeah.
had an idea for a business plan.
Yeah, and I'll never forget that day. You were like, "Can we just go into like a private room?" And I was like, "Come into my office. We have a virtual world at the Catalyst." So
Yes.
we went into my favorite room, which is just like a lush green wall of like and like kind of 1967 aesthetic, which is my
Yeah,
jam.
a little low coffee table, very
Yeah,
cozy.
yeah, we were on a comfy couch and,
Yep.
like, with the sun streaming in. It's a virtual world, everyone. It's just we can make
Yes.
it whatever we want.
Yeah.
So you said, I have this idea, and you started showing me some of the phrases that came out of that 26-page document. And of course, we all know the one that really hit me, of course, which is meet your whole life. And I was like, my
Yes.
whole life, Karina. And when I said
Yes.
that though, you had a reaction. You were like, "Oh no." Like,
Well, you were talking, I was using that language in the previous programs that I was
yeah,
trying to develop.
yeah,
And the way I heard it was that it was filled with trepidation and anxiety, and like,
sure.
that is too much,
Oh,
right?
no.
And
It was
so
like
I
game
came away
on.
thinking, oh, I need to narrow my focus. Maybe I shouldn't use that language because I don't want to scare people thinking, we're going to rearrange your whole life.
No, I was gonna meet my whole life. And when you
Right.
started talking about the crone herself of like really stepping into that energy and being able to embrace my whole life, all the roles, all the expectations, all of but meeting it with my energy, like the meeting it with my whole self. And we've talked a lot about this because you and I both agree, like that whole rhetoric around I even like squinted my eyes just thinking about the whole rhetoric where we're broken or we're not whole. Like you and I
Oof.
both are right on that same page. As soon as I have a client that says, "I'm broken, I'm not whole," I'm like, "Nah, we're gonna like we're not doing that here. We are whole people." But being able
Yes.
to really embrace and step in and claim that energy, claim that big crone energy so
Yes.
that I can meet my whole life. It to me it was about being just intentional about me enjoying the time I have here even when things suck, even when I'm like struggling or when I'm stepping into a big opportunity, it
Right.
is stepping into my whole life with that big crone energy.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
nourishment. That's self-nourishment because it's giving myself that permission to be that person.
And that's what it is, right? It's permission. It says it doesn't matter what the good girl book, rule book says. What feels good? What nourishes me? What depletes me? And saying yes to nourishing ourselves. If we don't do that, guess what? You can't take care of those teenagers. You can't take care of those elderly parents. You can't take care of, and you won't take care of your whatever's going on in your body because you're not even giving yourself enough time to know what's happening and what your options are, how you want to handle that, you know? So, this, on the one hand, I frame it in this way of like, get rid of the good girl rule book because we're already good. We're already good.
You're gonna make me cry.
I'm s- Don't cry. I'm sorry to make you cry again.
Happens.
Yeah. We're already good. We already have permission. There's nothing wrong with us. We may have things that need treatment. We may have healing work that we need to do, right? We may have skill sets that we have yet to grasp, but none of that means that we're broken or that we're deficient or something is wrong, inherently wrong with us. I feel like so many women I work with come to me with this and reveal this deep, dark secret that they know that there is something inherently wrong with them. And it's like this moment that it just breaks my heart over and over and over and over again. Because there's nothing wrong with us. We came into this life innocent. And we're still innocent. If you don't feel innocent about something, make amends. Make it right. So that you feel okay. But it doesn't mean that there's something that you're broken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I think when we let go of that whole like idea that we could be broken, it's enriching. It's like, okay. I sent you a video this morning of a lady dancing at a
Yes.
Taylor Swift concert, and she's the security guard,
Yeah.
the person who's like in charge of making sure people don't rush the stage. And
Mhm.
she was in her moment, right? She was dancing.
Singing.
And like not just like this kind of dancing. She
Right.
had moves. She had choreography
She did.
in there, and she was like making icon. So the thing is, what was really like what I noticed, and because I used to work in a large stadium and a symphony orchestra, so security, I'm like, she was still making eye contact with everybody, letting people know that there was going to be no rushing the stage today on her watch, and to make sure that everybody was safe while she had a really great time. And I was like,
Yes.
this is it. She's having a really great time. She's enjoying her life. She's enjoying her moment while she is still doing her job, keeping her role and making sure that everyone knew that she was the main character. You're here to see Taylor Swift, but right now you're in my aisle, and we are going to be here together, and we are
Yes.
going to be doing this together.
Yep.
But also, if any one of you think you're even going to step out of your seat, we are going to have a situation. And I was like, this is BCE. This is big crone energy,
Yes. Yeah.
because she was taking care of herself. She was taking care of everybody around her in her role, and she was having fun doing
She
it.
was having a blast. Yeah. Yeah. And the people around her, you could see the ones who were giving her attention were having a blast watching her as well. Manage all of that, right?
Yeah, there was one gal in like a sparkly dress, and you could see she was like, "Oh shoot, I don't know how to dance. This lady has like rhythm. I gotta." She like fixed her. She was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm having more fun now that I'm letting myself actually, as opposed to the kind of weird swaying she started. She
Yes.
started getting into it, and it was like a little ripple effect out. People were having more fun because this lady was showing up and having fun.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
And she didn't have to wear a sparkly dress.
no,
And she didn't have to do all of the things. She's in her security guard uniform,
yep,
having a blast.
yeah,
And something about her age as well.
yeah,
She's allowed to have a blast because
yeah,
she's not trying to look a certain way,
yeah,
right? And I
yeah,
think this is such an important piece of the crone herself as well. There's this moment where you realize you walk into a room and no one is looking at you because you've reached a certain age. You are no longer someone who, um, as people scan the room for who's there, they're not scanning you. They're going right by you. And as in my experience, right, people always stop to scan, right? And so there was this moment when I realized, oh, that's not happening. And I know women who get really upset by that, right? They rely upon that male gaze. right? Or the gays. Women check women out all the time to make sure that we're doing the right thing, that we look okay. And to be dismissed feels like a loss of some kind. For me, it felt like such a relief. Like, seriously, no one cares what I look like because I hit a certain age. Thank God I'm finally free, right? I can look however I want. I can show up however I want. And no one is going to say, and even if they do, I don't care anymore, right? Oh, well, she should be taking better care of herself, or she should wear more makeup, or she should dye her hair, or whatever. It doesn't matter because nobody's really paying attention.
Yeah, I embraced that quite a few years ago. Maybe my whole life, I don't know. But particularly when I stopped wearing pants, and embraced just wearing a dress, mostly because I don't have to think about what my top and bottom is. I just know exactly. I just put on a dress and I'm done. A
Yeah.
black sweater. But I have people all the time when I'm out in public, they'll be like, "Oh, your skirt is tucked up." Like I have a big old butt, and so sometimes the skirt just like rests on
Takes
my
up.
butt. Yeah, and I'll be like, "Okay," and then they're like, "Oh, you don't care." We were at a restaurant once, and I wasn't wearing like leggings or anything, but it was like this amazing buffet, and I come back and I'm like, I got this little like my plate, and the lady beside was like, "Oh, ma'am, your skirt's tucked up." I'm like, "Why are you watching?" And she was like, "What?" I'm like, "Is your dinner not good enough? Eyes on your plate, ma'am. Eyes on your plate." And she was just like, "Oh." I'm like, "Yeah, because you weren't doing it to help me. You were doing it to like point out something that you didn't like." And I'm like, it's different when it's like, "Hey, oh, hey, you've got like a piece of toilet paper stuck to your foot." That's a good one. But like trying to like monitor my clothing, I got no time for that. And my husband, she looked at like my husband. My husband was like, "Yeah, she has a butt and sometimes her skirt falls. Like it's not a big deal."
Yeah,
You
she's
know?
looking at at your husband
Yeah.
like, "You're gonna back me up here and help me police your woman?"
No. And he was just like, "Sometimes it happens. Eyes on your plate." Like, and like it was weird. It was a weird situation. But I'm just like, I got nothing. Like
Yeah,
sometimes that's gonna happen. If I feel a draft, I'll pull it down. But I'm not really worried about it. Like, cause I got my own thing to do. I got my own plate of tasty food. And I'm not gonna worry about pulling down my skirt while I'm juggling a massive plate of tasty food. It's not gonna
right.
happen.
But this policing
Yeah.
of one another, that's in the Good Girl book,
Yeah.
right? Like, when we get that indoctrination, part of the privilege that we receive with it, I'm speaking as a white woman, okay? Excuse me, is the privilege or the responsibility, right, to police other women, to say when you're laughing too loud, or when your dress is hiked up, or your dress is too short, or your hair is too long, or your whatever, right? And it's supposed to be helpful, and it's not. It is just a reinforcement of you're always being observed to make sure that you are staying in line. And I don't want to go too far into this, because if I go too far, then I make a mistake. But I want to say that this is part of what is going on between white women and women of color, that we think that we're being helpful by policing all women. We do it to each other, but we're in different cultures, right? We've been enculturated slightly differently. And
Yeah.
so my policing of your business, first of all, we need to just stop
So
across the board.
this is an interesting kind of distinction that we haven't talked about yet on the podcast, and it's the difference between looking out for each other and policing. It's
Right.
nourishing and restricting people, right?
Right.
Because everyone will say, "Well, I was just trying to be nice. I was just trying to help you out," and it's that tone, right? As soon as someone says that tone,
I'm just
you know
trying to be nice.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know exactly what you were trying to do
Yeah.
as soon as you become defensive,
Yes.
right? The lady who was like, "Your skirt's tucked out," I was like, "Yeah, I don't care." And she could be like, "Okay, cool." Like that would have been her response, but she was like offended that I didn't care. And it was an interest as soon as like she's like, "I'm just trying to be helpful." I'm like, "No, you're not." But thank
No.
you.
Yeah.
And it's just like I can tell. I
Yeah.
can actually tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's it. If you become defensive, if someone says no, thank you to your idea of helping or supporting or nourishing, monitor your own response. Show exactly, like, if you're feeling like defensive or like that person should be thankful, pack it up, go off somewhere else. You don't need to unpack it in front of them either. That's not their responsibility,
Right.
because that's nurturing and nourishing other people, is unpacking your own ish elsewhere.
Yes. Yes. And we're unpacking, really unlearning thousands of years of
Absolutely.
conditioning,
Absolutely.
thousands of years of
Rules,
conditioning
restrictions,
and rules
oppressions.
that are all they're in conflict with with each other, right?
Sure.
When we start listing all the ways that we're supposed to look and behave and act and be graceful and be thankful and be responsible and blah blah blah, they're in conflict with one another,
Yeah.
right? So it's like if you've got a bad program running on your system, the whole system is, you have to start from scratch.
Yeah.
So in unlearning thousands of years of this kind of conditioning,
Mhm.
our job is to say, what makes me happy?
Mhm.
What makes me feel good? What foods upset me? Right?
Mhm.
If I don't get this much sleep, what am I like the next day? If I drink
Mhm.
that much coffee, I mean, it's these simple, tiny little places that we begin with, these little questions. But when we start to pull that thread,
Yeah.
all kinds of things unravel. And we get to use that thread to knit together what we do love, what we do want. And we learn to ask other people, what is it that you want? So
Yeah.
that I can nourish you the way that you long to be nourished.
Yeah, or maybe find joy in it too,
Yeah.
right? Like, you're thinking, "Oh, this person shouldn't be doing this." It's like, "Well, why don't you just put yourself in their shoes for half a minute? You might have fun doing that too."
Yep. Yep. There was something about when I came to the catalyst and I realized, like, oh, I am like a little in over my head, right? But I'm smart. I can keep up.
Yeah.
And oh my God, I am finally in the right place with people who actually know the answers to the things I'm asking
Yeah.
and who aren't doing this as a hobby,
Yeah.
you
Yeah, that's
know?
a big thing. We gotta pay bills with what
Well,
we're making.
we have to make sure that where we're going for help is the
Yeah,
right place and we're
that's
going to
true.
actually get the help that we need in
Yeah.
that place.
Yeah, and
We
part of it
can't
is
ask
like,
the wrong people. I can't ask, you know, my neighbor across the street if he can put the fire out in my house, right? He's not a
or get that
fireman.
skunk out of the
Oh,
shed.
no. Again. And these are people who say that this is what they do for a living, but we're
Right,
just gonna
right.
yeah.
But you can also go, like, for example, like you said, this is a guy who like an exterminator. I got this. We're gonna. Oh, there's no skunk. It's a possum. And you're like, I can smell that there is definitely a skunk. So you same thing with like coaching or business support. And because I've been through it all, people will say that they know the answer, and they might know one part of the answer, but part of it too. What I have found in this space is that we might not be ready to hear the answer as well. Okay. And that we might ask the question or we might ask for help,
Yeah,
but we actually aren't ready to really like receive that help. And
right.
it can be a challenge, and I recognize it is, but I also I have so much patience for people. Like, I'm just like, whenever you're ready. I'll
Mhm.
say it 1,200 times sometimes. And I know other people in the room are that too. Like, they're just like, we've got really great people in our community that they're just like, I might have said this 600 times, but the person, it was Thursday. And Thursday, we don't need to hear things on Thursday, but maybe Friday. And that's okay too. but I've really noticed that it is a special space where you can maybe show up and be not quite ready as well. But if you keep showing up and you keep working on it, all of a sudden, the thing that you might have heard 1,200 times, you actually understand the thing you're hearing, because that's a different thing, right? I can hear the words,
Yes.
but does the word mean anything to me?
Yes.
It's like learning a new language, right? I can hear that same word 500 times, and then you all of a sudden you don't realize you're out in public and you use that word instead of the word that you might like the regular language that you're all of a sudden you're like, here's a word and I've used it and now it makes sense to me, you know?
Yes.
Same thing with learning a new skill or doing something in your business where you're growing. And
Yes.
I've seen you do it. I've seen you come in and be like, today is not the day. And then you come in and then we're like, okay, bye, we'll see you later. And then you come in and then you're like, today is the day I'm learning this today. And I
Yes.
love that. I love watching you do that.
Yeah. Now I have a habit of like, if you present me with something new that I'm uncomfortable with, I will back away. And
But
I
you
need
say
about
it now. When you first joined the Catalyst, you were like, you're just gone. I'm like, okay, bye-bye. And then, but now you're like, no, not today. And I love that, right? Because I can see like that's the perfect thing. Because it's
yeah,
just like, that's okay. You had too much caffeine, you didn't sleep well, or you're still processing something you learned yesterday and the
correct.
next thing isn't ready to click in, and that's okay.
Yes. Yeah. And it's the same no matter when you're working with people, right? When I'm training people, when I'm working with students and clients or at a fire walk, I'll repeat myself.
Yeah.
I repeat myself and repeat myself and repeat myself. And I've had students who have worked with me for 4, 5, 6 years, and I'll say something that I've said 100 times, and you can see them. Like I've literally watched people go, I wish that you had said that earlier. And
I wish
I'm
I
like,
had
I've said it
to.
100 times. I've said it every time we've spoken. I repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And
Yeah.
sometimes we just cannot. Like
No.
some part of us outright rejects the message. Not ready for that message.
Yeah.
Not ready for that message.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we don't have to worry about, like, I love that you do this now because other people have said, I saw Karina doing such and such the other day. And I was like, uh-huh. And they're like, I realized that you say something to me, and if I don't want to hear it, I get mad at you. And then I realized I was in it because when Karina was like, no, not today. I can you said something the other day, like, well, I'm done today, or something. You're like, then that's my cue. I'm done today. Goodbye, everybody. And then that you doing that was the trigger for the other person to go, oh, I sit there and I get mad at you and I get mad at you when I really should just be like, not today. And then I come back the next day. I'm like, yeah,
Now today.
yeah,
Yeah.
Tuesday I made you mad because I'm like, this is something you got to do. Otherwise you're going to be in pain later on. I can see all of the pain that is before you. If we just put in this one automation right now, we're going to get mad at me. Go ahead. I don't care. And you've heard
Yeah,
me say this. I'm
sure.
like, be mad. I don't
When you
care.
give me a list of like a whole Miro board full of
Yeah.
like assignments, I'm like, okay. And then
Yeah.
I leave, right? Because
You're
I'm
like, I
gonna
have
go,
homework again.
I
I
have
hear that.
homework. And
Yeah.
it's okay. It's okay that I have homework. And it's okay
Yeah.
that I took two days off and didn't do
Yeah.
that homework. But it's up here, right?
Yeah. And then 2
And
days
it's
later, you're like, I hated this homework, but this was good. This was good. I like this homework. I'm like, okay, good. And that helps me. That's an ongoing conversation because I can
mhm,
see what you like doing and what you don't like doing. So that helps me also build other tools for you, like not just like, like not just the processes in your business, but like I can see you like, okay, you're gonna need support here, you're gonna need support. That's for me to observe, to help
yes,
observe because you're in the moment and you're just trying to get through this thing. I get to like walk around. You notice the fire walks. And the mentorships that you do, you get to
yeah,
walk around in this like 360 and
right.
say, oh, okay, yeah,
Mhm,
okay, this we can make this even better. We can make this even better. And that's how we nourish each other,
right.
right? We're
And
not trying
how do I
to
get this person to hear the thing that everybody else in the room has heard?
yeah,
Yeah.
we're not trying to teach in a way that's like, no, you've got to do it this way. It's helping you shape that 360 view of yourself
Yes.
and helping make it even better.
Right. And finding the language that you can hear, right?
Yep. or the senses that you need, because it's not always
Yes.
hearing, it's not
Right.
always seeing, it's not always, sometimes it's feeling. The other day I asked somebody what their brand smells like, and they were like, ha ha ha, wait,
Right.
actually. And from there, we were able to craft a whole brand around it. Colors, imagery.
Right.
But it wasn't until it was like, oh wait, actually it's like vanilla and cloves and cinnamon. I'm like, we can build that. That's a brand.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like being there with people to kind of say, okay, it's okay if this one way didn't work. We've got like 1,200 more. It's fine. We'll work through it. We'll get there together.
Right. And the
Yeah.
ideas will keep coming. I mean, that's part of being what, I don't know if it's part of being an entrepreneur, but I feel like for me, being in the rooms at the Catalyst is like, oh, like these people, their brains work like mine, right? They're not saying, oh, that'll never work, or oh, here she goes again with another one of her big ideas, right? And I have lots of big ideas, right?
Yeah.
What I haven't had was the right help or the
Right.
ability to ask the right people for help. And at one point in my life, the ability to ask for help at all,
So
right?
let's talk about that. Are you nourished right now as a risk taker?
I think that I'm nourished in the Catalyst.
Okay.
I think that there are relationships in my life where I'm being nourished
Hmm.
for the risks that I'm taking.
Hmm.
Big shout out to Misha at Spill the Tea Apothecary, who's another entrepreneur, right? So
Hmm.
she could see it, right? It's like
Hmm.
something that happens in us, and we're like, oh, I know what that is. I wanna be a part of that in whatever way that I can, or help that along in
Yeah.
whatever way I can. Um, I think that my life is such right now where I know how to nourish me, and I don't have a lot of demands that would take me away from
Hmm.
what I really want to be focusing on right
Hmm.
now. And so I know how to nourish myself and have set up my life in a way that
Hmm.
allows me to work on my business, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. And to fill my own well so that when the clients come, because they're coming, they're getting ready, right? That my well is full so that I'm not trying to, give you the last drop of
Yeah.
energy that I have. Um,
Yeah.
which we can do. We can also I don't know if we can over nourish people, but we can certainly deplete ourselves trying, right? So that I think that there's a balance there. Mhm.
And how are you on receiving nourishment? Is it easy for you?
Sometimes, sometimes not. Sometimes I'm a little shy about it.
Yeah.
I think I'm not accustomed to it, right? I wasn't nourished well as a
Uh-huh.
child.
Yeah.
And because of that, I was in relationships as an adult that were not nourishing,
Uh,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
And so when nourishment is offered, I think my first response is to be surprised, right? To be surprised, to be delighted, right? To be grateful. Um, I think that there have certainly been moments when I've like spent like a whole day with you working on my business and been like, I kind of monopolized the room today, you know? But then I hear you say, that's what I'm here for. That's what we're doing. That's what you needed. That's what there's space for.
Yeah.
And so that's been really helpful to me to be able to ask for what I need and to receive it and and to also hear, nope, I'm working on this, or to read the room and be like, they are really busy building out the Catalyst website right now. And my thing can wait today.
Not really. The only things that and I will say this, we work on things, but like anything that we work on during those moderated co-working are things that we can stop very easily.
I know.
Because it's just, yeah. But I loved when I was like, can I just build you a website, please?
And I was like, I don't know. I don't
need this
know.
website done so that we can go on and do the fun things. That was me asking for nourishment. That this is what some people don't realize, is that when I'm like, hi, may I please just build you a brand and a website that you love and we can move on? It's because I
love that part.
Or that I'm just like tired. I'm just like, the thinking about hiring a web designer or like what your brand, it's kind of gets boring for me. I'm just like, there's so many fun things we can do. Like we can get you on media. We can start doing, your podcast. Because I want to do all that fun stuff. Can I just do this so that we can move on and get to the fun things? And people are like, wait, you want to do more? Yes, I would like to do this work today. And so that you can move on and we can have more fun.
That's day that I brought you the idea for the crone herself, seriously, we were in the room for about 2 hours discussing it. And Marisa at some point says, here, let me share my screen with you. And there's a whole brand. There's a whole brand built. There's like, here are your social media posts, and here's your social media banner. Your book. Here's your website.
Here's your podcast cover.
Here's your logo. Here's your podcast cover. Here's your book cover. And I'm like, wait, I'm doing a podcast? Wait, I'm writing a book? Wait, what is happening? But it was this explosion of big crone energy. And that's what it looks like. It looks like an explosion. I think it is the Big Bang, right? The explosion of all creative energy, right? It has the little nebula and the stars are in there. But this happened in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, for the past, 12 weeks, I've been fighting with, can you please use the color I asked you to use on my website?
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas I was like, what color are you thinking of this? And you're like, that hot pink color that I put on the website that got taken away from me by another web designer. I was like, done. I was like, I can color match that. And then everything just sort of fell in place. But the reason why I did that, one, I was co-creating with you. And this sometimes happens, like where people they're telling me a story and I'm writing their landing page. And then at the end, I'm just like, oh, and here you go. Here's your brand, or here's your landing page. And people are like, wait, what? When did you do this? I'm like, while you were telling me the story, I was pulling out the juicy bits.
Right.
So you didn't have, because what happens is in the creation process is we get this idea, we get really excited, and then we go to put it down and it's like, ooh, ooh, and we overthink it.
Right.
And we have like executive dysfunction and we're just like, and then it never goes out. Right. With me, I'm just like, okay, while Karina's talking about this, I'm going to make this visual. I'm going to put some words in. I'm going to start pulling out some of these phrases that she's written down here. And I'm going to start putting it in. And then it felt real. Right.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I don't do a website. I was like, I'm just going to build that for you tomorrow. And you're like, no, you can't. I'm like, I actually can. Here you go. I was like, give me your passwords and your logins. Like and then you have a website.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And you couldn't think yourself out of having that great idea.
No. And because of the way my mind works, right? I have 100 great ideas every day, right? But this was really big. And I thought, if I don't move on this very, very quickly, I will get bored, or I will get distracted by the next thing, or I'll get mad at the project, or something will happen and it will fall away. And then I'll be back in this position again of like, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing?
Yeah. And I mean, I have this thing where I can't show up for somebody's business more than they can show up. That's the whole part of the done with you, is like, you come in the room and you're like, I want to work on my website today. I'm like, let me just log in. Because I know that you're ready and there to work. Right. part of that done for you. I can't do that anymore because I will sit there and work on it, and then I got to wait for you to like look at it. Like, it is so much better where we're just like, you want to build this homepage? You're like, I want to work on my podcast page. And I'm like, okay, here, can you give me this file? Okay, and then I'm like, give me your login, and you're still talking about it, and I'm like, okay, there's your podcast page. Okay, like, have a good day, and you now again don't have to talk yourself out of it. Right. And go, oh, I don't know what the tech is, or I don't know how to do this the easiest way. I'm like, I got you. We'll just put it in. And there you go. Now you get to go be you. You get to go be the crone herself, because you don't have to be the expert. I mean, you will become the expert at you're like, I will know this and I will figure it out before you give it to someone else. And I know that about you. But your true magic is being the crone herself, is going out there and impacting people with your energy, right?
Yes.
I need to get all those obstacles away so that you just get to show up and shine. Yes. You just get to go out and talk about these amazing things your whole life. Go meet your whole life. Right? Don't wait.
Don't wait.
Embrace the crone energy. Like, I know all these key messages because we say them all the time.
Yes. And like, you're not too young. You're never too young.
You're not too young. You're not too old. You're just right. Doesn't matter when you step into that big crone
energy. Nobody, we have it our whole lives. So the crone herself wants you to know you can access big crone energy if you're 25 or 30 or 35 or 40 or 85 or 100.
Yes. Right? And it's cross-cultural. It's intergenerational. Right. It's about sharing information. It's about connecting. It's about it's actually about nourishing the risk takers too. Yes. And I love that. It is a movement. Oh yeah. That I was like, oh, and then you have a movement. And you're like, I have a movement now. I'm like, it's bigger than you. I'm sorry. Yeah. Please go forth.
Yes. It is bigger than me. Yeah. It is bigger than me. And there are pieces of that movement out there, right? Since I've started doing this work that have sort of landed, or people send me links or whatever. I'm like, oh, good. This thing is already rolling. And it's already here, right? Yeah. Like, it's not mine, right? Yeah. I mean, the crone herself, that's mine. That's my name. That's my name. And big crone energy is my thing. But this is archetypal, right? This is ancient. This is ancestral.
Yeah.
And so we're here sort of like bringing it in and through, bringing it in and through, bringing it in and through. So a lot of my teachings, yes, they're from my whole life, right? Of teaching, of mentoring, of guiding, of loving, of nurturing, of helping people develop into people who can get up in the morning and be like, I'm good, right? There's that piece of it, but there's also this other stuff that is way bigger than any one individual. And I don't remember who said the line, but they said, one day it might be that a bunch of old women start a rebellion and take over the world, right? And in other cultures, old women are in charge, right? When the old women speak, everybody stops whatever they're doing to listen and offers them that respect, because they have wisdom, because we're crones, right? There's also something here about sovereignty that I want to say. And when I think that what people are talking about when they say the word sovereign is that they mean I'm self-authoritative, right? Like, I'm in charge of me. And that's good. That's good progress from everybody else is in charge of me, and I'm taking direction from everyone else. The thing is that sovereignty has to be in solidarity. It has to be collaborative. It has to be collective. cooperative, conspiratorial even, right? That if all I'm concerned about is me and my needs, that means I don't care about you and your needs because I'm sovereign, right? And we've all seen this used this way, right? Like, I get to do whatever I want because I'm a sovereign being. No, you do not get to do whatever you want that is harmful or deleterious to other people or communities because you're a sovereign being. Now you're using sovereign the way that it was meant to be used, which is the ruler over the people, over their subjects. So we're not subjects. The goal here is for us all to become sovereign, self-authoritative, right? Within the agreed upon culture with others. We don't get to just be like, I get to do whatever I want. People who pick up AR-15s are going to do whatever they want, right? People who are ruining communities or ruining good people's reputations are doing whatever they want. We have to figure out, how do we all walk hand in hand together toward the world that we want to live in, not just our little world. So that's my tirade on sovereignty. I think it's a great idea, but we have to do it together and support one another in that. Did we reach our limit?
I just realized that I had wrote Big Cone Energy instead of Big Crone Energy. So now we're back to Big Crone Energy. It's just, that's it. So I just want to wrap things up here. You have a podcast, you have a movement. They can find all of that at thecroneherself.com.
Yes.
And we will have links for that. But one thing I've been doing is, I just want to take a moment to recognize and appreciate you. I love that you've joined the Catalyst. I absolutely am just overjoyed. Like I said, I'm loving the journey that you're bringing the other Catalyst members along in their own self-reflection and their self-creation of themselves in the world. And you're fascinating. I enjoy every time you come into the room with your stories. I love how you talk about, the way that you show up for other people. But you're an incredible knowledge keeper. You're an incredible storyteller. And you really do have so much patience and so much love that you're giving into the world that sometimes I'm just like, I got to take a moment and mute myself, because I'm just like, wow, Karina's a big deal. And it is such an honor to have you in that space and to be a part of that co-creation that we're creating in the world. I can't, like I said, I cannot shower enough words of appreciation upon you. So thank you so much for being there in the room. We're going to also talk about being in the room on another podcast, but I really appreciate you there. So thank you so much. And thank you for what you're doing in the world. Like I got excited by this because I'm like, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for more intergenerational learning. I'm ready for, and it's an exchange, right? It's not just like, it's as you said, Big Crone Energies at any time of our lives. You give to me, we're not that much of an age difference, but you give to me, I give to you. I think we got like a decade and 12, 14 years maybe between us. But like we are giving, it's a reciprocal learning that's happening on both sides of it. And I think that is a relationship. That's relationship goals, right? That is friendship and colleague and co-creator, collaborator, conspirator.
It's the best.
That's it, right? Is when you know that person's got, and sometimes that person's going to annoy you. And sometimes that person's going to be like, geez, why did she say that? And it's like, oh, why did she put that Facebook reel up about me? It's not always about you.
It totally wasn't about me. No.
Main character energy. I have to do a thing that's like this. I think I've done it before, but it's like the take on the you think this reel is about you, don't you? It's
It was
these
such an important moment in our
yeah,
relationship though, right?
yeah,
That I was able to like bring you that deep insecurity,
yeah,
and you
yeah,
were able to just be like, that wasn't what was happening, but why do you think it was?
yeah,
And
yeah.
I
Why did
knew
that
why
hit?
I thought it was.
Yeah,
Um, but that was the moment when I was like, okay, either they're going to be like, yeah, I was laughing at you because you're an asshole. Oops. Um,
no,
or I wasn't.
yeah.
And we can still be friends even after you thought that I did that to you.
Yeah, and I was
Mm.
horrified. I was like horrified that you would be hurt by something. And I was like, wait, no, this is like 5 people that's happening to right now. This
Yeah,
isn't about you.
it's
It's just
totally, it's
yeah.
always about us,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and really, and I think I said to you, like, it's actually a reflection of how I show up in that moment, right? So it's
Mhm.
like my own, like, I'm always like, I'm slightly sarcastic. I'm like, oh yeah, right. And I joke a lot, but I'm always trying to like measure my own reactions against other people so that I can be a really good mirror and so that I can be a really good community member. So I
That
was
was, it
horrified,
was, your response was perfect though. And it was, yeah.
but I
And
also
it's
do that. And
what
like,
kept me there.
several times a week. And people are like, was that about me? I'm like, no, but should it be? And like, at that point we get rid of the shame, right? We get rid of that, like,
Yes.
because it's like, yeah, we're all like that. I look at myself in my own, I do a reel or I do a TikTok, and then I'm like, ha, ha, I was talking to myself there.
Right.
And people are gonna be like, that's about me. I'm like, oh no, I'm literally doing a little self-journaling here in this
Right.
process, right? And that's the thing, is we just take away that kind of shame moment, and we're just like, oh, we do ridiculous things all the time, and it's okay, no one died, you know
No one was irrevocably harmed. No
no,
one died.
no,
And in a space like you've created, we all get to like look at that stuff about ourselves and be like, oh, look, we're all doing it. Oh, look, you're crying in the room today. Oh,
yeah,
look, I'm crying in the room
yeah,
today.
or like, oh,
You're
you've got brain
celebrating.
fog today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you can't focus today, you're just gonna sit and like stare at the wall and listen to us chat. Cool, welcome. Like, nobody has to be super productive, nobody has to be killing it every day,
Right.
but we all show up for whatever it is. It's just showing up, and it's being there and being nourished by just being around other people, so that we're not
Right.
sitting there in our dark basements like I used to, like my potato era, where I was just in a dark basement wondering,
Mhm.
when's this all gonna change. No, we come in and we sit in those rooms with the green walls, and the people chatting around us. Sometimes we're on it, we're like, wow, it's really super productive, and that's cool. We celebrate that too, even when we weren't that person. And I think that's the biggest thing that we can do for other people, is know that we're not all on the same journey, we're not all on the same path, but
Right.
we still get to celebrate the heck out of each other,
Yeah.
even when we feel like we have nothing to celebrate. And it changes things. Like, it changes the way we build relationships, because it doesn't have to be transactional
Or competitive.
or competitive. Well,
Right.
sometimes we also have some good competitions, though, where it's like, I dare you to get to and we're gonna
Yes.
bring some more of those, but they're friendly. They're
Yes.
absolutely friendly, and they're fun, right? Because it's just fun games where we're just like, I can get more or I can get more likes than you, or whatever. Like, it's just those things where we shake it up. Again,
Mhm.
it's making things ridiculous that normally we would stress about.
Right. Right.
We're gonna pull on the 1970s gym shorts with the slits up the side, and we're gonna go run for our social media goals or something, just like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but everybody gets a participation ribbon, even if you didn't get to the finish line. We are like that here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's good
Well,
stuff.
thank you so
It's the
much.
best decision.
Yes, and I'm so glad you made that decision. I'm so glad you came in. So yes, so everybody, please do go see Karina BlackHeart at thecroneherself.com. If you're looking for her podcast, it is Big Crone Energy, and it is anywhere you would listen to a podcast, Apple, Spotify, you name it. You want to listen to it, go look up Big Crone Energy. The episodes are fantastic.
Mm.
And I am looking forward to seeing so much more hot pink smoke and nebulas mesmerizing across my social media feed and in the news and beyond. So thank you again very much, Karina, for being here. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Mwah.